Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon here, coming to you live from sunny, warm Phoenix, Arizona. And I am joined, of course, by my spectacular co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James. Tim James, how are you, my man?
Hey, Carter, doing good. And I'm checking out Ryan Conley's bio on his website. And the first thing I saw was a white-tailed deer and Ryan with a big smile on his face. So it brings me back to my redneck days over in Eastern Oregon. So excited to chat with him today. And I'm actually up in Idaho again. I can say about 1.5 feet of snow on the water. I'm in Sandpoint, Idaho, enjoying it up here. And just looking forward to our chat today.
Nice. Awesome. Well, hey, Enrichers, we're really excited about our next guest today. I've gotten a chance to actually start working with Ryan a little bit. So I know it's been a while since one of our podcast guests has been someone who's been really connected with Epic Services and CSI and everything. So I'm excited to be able to bring him onto the show today. He is coming from St. Louis, Missouri, by way of, I know he just got back from a Mexico trip. So anyway, Ryan Conley, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I heard there was a need for a guest, so I cut my trip short just to be here.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
No, that's not true. Glad to be here. Thank you, Carter.
No, that's fantastic. So Ryan Conley, CFP, advisor extraordinaire, if you will, and I know that you're there in St. Louis, Missouri. And I was really excited the fact that you were, and it was sort of like a half joke. I know that we've gotten so, this is not to break my arm to pat myself on the back or our back, Tim, but our podcast has started to become so successful that the recordings that we do once a week are so booked. They're booked through September. So we had to open up a second slot for advisors to get onto the podcast. And today is actually that very first one. So Ryan, I asked him, I was like, hey, I know that we wanted to move you up if we can. Could you be available on Tuesday? And you were able to oblige. So Ryan Conley, it really is very much thankful that you are on our show today.
Well, I appreciate it, Carter. I'm thankful that you thought of me first.
Yeah.
Hey, let me say something, Carter, because this is one thing for the advisors listening, is that and I have to give all the credit to Carter because I have my own show and we do all this stuff, and I co-hosted. I said I'll show up, I'll co-host and all that stuff, but Carter pretty much runs this show. He does the bookings and stuff like I do on the end for my show, and he's gotten so booked out. It's crazy, and it's because he's really good at marketing. So if you're a financial advisor and you would like to have an endless list of potential awesome prospects in front of your desk so you can talk to them all day long, it's the same methods. He's using the same stuff that he's using to help advisors to book our show out. It's like, it's crazy. I might have to hire you to book my show.
Well, I could do it. I can promise you.
There you go. There's, as he says, the shameless plug, but no, it's reality. That's what's going on. We have so many people lined up to come on the show now, and it's because of, your marketing's really good, and people want to get on here and get exposed to our audience. So,
and you know what? And that's a perfect segue actually to Ryan Conley, because it's not just the quantity of advisors that are coming on; it's the quality of them. And luckily for us today, and Enrichers, you are in for a treat. You're going to get a chance to hear from Ryan Conley, who is one of those spectacular financial advisors out there that are really helping his clients in so many different areas. So with that said, Ryan Conley, our listenership, the Enrichers as we call them, let's get into your backstory and what really gave you that heart and that passion, to help people with their finances and estate planning and all the other different things that it is that you're ultimately helping the mass affluent primarily, I know. And of course, I was just having this conversation the other day. I said, what financial advisor doesn't want to work with people who have $50 million? Of course you do, right? But the mass affluent are the underserved marketplace. They're the ones who really need the type of help that Ryan Conley and the advisors like him can deliver. So with all that being said, Ryan Conley, what is it that ultimately, if you can, take us back to whether that was in grade school or high school or a family member or the influencer in your life that sent you down the path to get into the financial services business?
So that's a great story, and I could use any number of different things if I think back to it. I remember my grandpa being very involved in the stock market and investing growing up. I mean, I never really talked to him about it a whole lot, but I remember hearing him talk about it, a little bit from time to time. I remember the other side of my family, my mom's mom and dad, went through a very difficult, they ultimately lost their farm because of some bad investments and some bad banking practices and some of it's stubbornness on their end. I'm not going to lie, but I remember what it did to my family. Especially my mom having to be she was the oldest daughter, so that typically is the one that is by default the one that takes care of the grandparents and stuff like that. So it left a very powerful image in my mind of what the average person, needs. You mentioned that $50 million client. I might be one to say, I don't know if I would want that client, to be totally honest, Carter, just because I'm not entirely sure that, first of all, that they would, take me seriously. I don't know. If they've made $50 million, they've probably done something pretty well. And I didn't grow up in that kind of an environment. I grew up, my dad was a high school teacher and my mom worked various secretarial type jobs, bookkeeping jobs. So, we were not in that type of an environment growing up. So I am much more comfortable in the mass affluent space without question.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome and meaningful. And, so we have this thing that we talk about around here, fairly often. And I know that we just started sort of working together and everything, but as an advisor, in order to grow your practice, you need the 4A client. And what we consider a 4A client is one that has the right attitude, the right aptitude with the proper assets that can become an advocate for you, right? And that's how you ultimately grow your practice. And everything that we've done around here is built around helping advisors to create as many 4A clients as you can. And that's why, delivering on the front end, a lot of what we call the 3 E's, right? Educate, enlighten, and empower your clients to take control of whatever wealth that is, right? It can be argued very easily that someone who's going to transfer $100,000 probably needs more help than someone who's going to transfer $100 million, right? Because that is going to be critically important for the success of the next generation and their chances of moving up in that in a pecking order, so to speak. So anyway, Ryan, so your grandparents and everything. So what about as far as like schooling, like in high school, did you have anybody that influenced you into this? And then what ultimately led you to go get your CFP and things of that nature?
So I was a late bloomer in a lot of regards. And that's kind of how I tell my story. I'm like 6'3" and 215 pounds now. And but going into freshman year, I think I was 5'4" and 100 pounds, soaking wet. Wow. I hit a growth spurt and jumped up to 6 foot or something on those lines. And long after any size and athletic ability would do me any good, that's when I get it. It did great for me in college as far as intramural sports, but I also, not just late bloomer as far as that goes, but as far as what I wanted to do in life. I graduated with a communications degree, basically mass communications degree, because it felt like it opened doors. It wasn't too specific. And from that point forward, I started off doing a number of different things out of college. But all along the way, I mean, I would say, you know, my dad has always been a huge influence in my life. Both my parents, but my dad especially, and he's just so calm and measured. And you know, if I could tell if he was truly upset or if it was something that was more of a minor, you know, communication issue or something along those lines. It was never what's the word I'm looking for? Never a spur of the moment kind of a thing. And I have used that example in a lot of different pursuits, but especially when I started, I almost stumbled into becoming a financial advisor. It was always something that was on the back of my mind, but the opportunity really presented itself when I was first moved to Alaska. An opportunity that presented itself, a very good opportunity, and one I'm still, you know, think that divine providence put me there at that point in time for that very reason to where I am today. But that sense of calmness has been really important to what I do for not only my clients, but just my life in general, raising a couple of kids, that I instilled from my dad. So I'd say that he's definitely been the biggest, you know, influence in my life, thankfully, as I know not every person can say that.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, you know, your father is typically, you know, one of the biggest influencers for any, you know, boy or young man growing up. And that can be, you know, good or bad, obviously, right? Because you typically, you know, you lead by example. You know, interestingly enough, my story is almost exactly opposite of your story, right? I didn't have a great influence, but I still learned from my dad. It just happened to be things to not do, not as opposed to things to do or to. And I would definitely say my dad was not measured whatsoever, unless it was like how far away the belt was going to be able to reach still. But I digress. But the whole thing about you, I want to hear more about how you sort of stumbled onto financial services and everything. And then you say a late bloomer. I'm assuming that means that you were maybe mid to late 20s or something when you decided you're getting into financial services business.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I was in my late 20s when I first started in the industry. And I started really, I guess, I don't know, with a company that's well known in the Midwest. And
I don't want to get the plug here at all.
Right. Well, you know, I want to make sure I keep this all in the up and up.
Sure.
And they have a really, really great training program, at least, you know, from what I've been told. And I would, after having been in the industry for 16, 17 years now, I would say that's still accurate. But actually, once I got into this organization, I had two people that were very instrumental for me. One was named Wes, and the other guy's name was also Ryan. And they had a really good sense of taking what I call it is just some of the most emotional math that most of us have to deal with. I mean, we're not launching rockets. So that's one thing. But everything we deal with is predominantly math. But most of the people make the wrong decisions when all they need to do is look at the math. And they had a great way of just calming people down and really, at the end of the day, feeling like I'm really doing something helpful for these people. I'm not just at the end of the day selling something. If, you know, and I'm just selling something and I made a commission or whatever it is, it was truly impacting them. Usually almost always for the better. At least the intentions are always good. You know, the investment 1 or 2 times they don't pan out, but that's, you know, a little bit of the risk that you have to disclose. But it was listening to those 2 guys and following in their footsteps that really helped to get me to where I am now.
Awesome. And then, so you mentioned earlier that you lived in Alaska. So tell me a little bit more about that. In fact, Tim James, here's our another first person that ever lived in Alaska that's been a guest on our show.
Well, he probably knows about mosquitoes and no-see-ums then.
Oh gosh, yes, for sure. The mosquitoes more than the no-see-ums.
What about fiddleheads? You have fiddlehead salads, fiddlehead soup? Eat them?
No, I've not had that.
Those are fern tips, edible fern tips. And when I ran out of sprouts when I went up there for a fishing trip last summer, I was outside picking fiddleheads, making salads.
Oh,
Everybody thought I was crazy, but then they were eating the salads. Like, damn, that's pretty good.
Is that like a dandelion salad then?
Oh, actually, yeah. So there was dandelions out there. I was picking the dandelions, and the flowers, clean them off, and then also the fiddlehead. So it was a dandelion fiddlehead salad.
Really? Yeah. Okay. So I have had dandelion salad, but not fiddlehead.
Living food, baby. Those are a little tidbit. I know we got a break here, but we have 25 bitter receptors in our stomach. Guess how many sweet receptors we have in the stomach?
0.
1.
We
have 1. So what does common sense tell you? We should be eating foods that are bitter. That's what we are programmed for. Dandelions are a bitter food. Arugula is a bitter food. Okay. Write that down and have yourself a dandelion arugula salad. It'll improve your life. Okay. Back to Alaska, Carter.
All right. Yeah. Back to Alaska. So how long did you live in Alaska? And, and one of the interesting things that I know, just generally speaking, is that the days are either really long or really short, depending sometimes on what part of the year it was. So what was it like living in Alaska for however many years that was?
So we lived up there for 4 years. And I didn't realize this. I didn't really think about it either until I was up there. But, every spot on the globe gets the same amount of sun in a year. It just depends, the further you are north or south, the more extreme it gets. But if you're on the equator, it's pretty much the same. Nothing changes. Nothing changed. Groundhog Day. So if you lived up there, it wasn't a big deal because they got used to it. But it was really nice come around, April, and the night, it's dark until 9:30, and then you still have 2 months to go to the summer solstice. So that was fun, and it always made December 21st was always a great day because you knew the days are getting longer from that point forward. You just gotten through the winter time. But I tell you, having those long days in the summer was great.
Yeah. And so what is what's the average temperature in Alaska in the summertime? I mean, is it anything like, being able to go to the swimming pool, or, what do you do in the summertime there?
Honestly, it depends. So where I lived in Juneau, Juneau's actually in a rainforest. So the temperatures, I could wear, like shorts and long sleeve shirt most of the time, but in the wintertime, it got cold. You have to be really crazy to want to do it. And I knew some people that did it, but there's always those people that wear shorts no matter what. But if you go to Fairbanks, for instance, in the summertime, it could be 100 degrees, and in the wintertime, it could be 50 below. So it has that big of a swing. Wow. So it really does depend. There were no air conditioners really in Juneau. So if you're on an HVAC company, it was an HV company. But if you go someplace like to Fairbanks, you would need it. You would need the whole deal.
Awesome. Well, I've always wondered about what it was like to go to Alaska. I've not had a chance to do that yet, but now our enrichers have an idea about what it's like in the summertime and the wintertime.
Oh, it's great. It's great both times.
Everybody should go to Alaska at least once. It's beautiful up there.
It is.
Just go up probably I don't know. I think September before the snow flies is a good. It gets a couple cold snaps, then you don't have to deal with all the no-see-ums and mosquitoes so much. But you got to time it right, otherwise you're going to be buried in snow.
Honestly, you do have. I mean, you have to have a little bit of luck with the weather, no matter when you go. I mean, in August one year we had 1 day of sun. It was overcast the rest of the days. But
yeah,
when it's bright, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I remember when we went up there in June, it was like, you'd wake up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, like at 1:30 in the middle of the night, and you look outside, it's freaking daylight. It's trippy. It's like, what? So you have to board everything up. I brought my eye mask and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can just never go to bed if you want to. But anyway.
Yeah, at that time of year.
All right, guys, it's time. We got to take a quick break. And when we get back, we'll dive more into the cool stuff that Mr. Conley is doing over at his practice called In Season Financial, which I think is really cool. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Again, today in the house, we have financial advisor Ryan Conley. I really like this guy. You know what I like about you, Ryan, is because I pick up on people's vibrational frequencies, and Ryan's in this for the right reason. He really wants to help people. Like, there's no question. It's oozing out of you. You've apologized for many things that you don't even need to apologize for at all. You're a great guy, I can tell, and anybody that's got their money with you is a lucky soul. So, and I think a lot of this comes back to like that story about your grandparents. They come into some money, wasn't handled right, and they lost the farm. That's like a slogan. Like, they lost the farm. And it's like, for people to understand, like, I grew up in a farming community, and sometimes those farms are handed down generation after generation. Other times, it's like it could have been grandpa's or your dad's, lifelong dream to have a farm, be a rancher. Maybe he was watching, John Wayne drive cattle across the plains and wanted to do that. And then they, were able to buy some land and do some level of that, ranching, farming, whatever. And it's like it gets into your bones and your soul. It's like there's something to be very proud of. You're out steward of the land and doing that kind of stuff. So to lose the farm is not something that's really cool. I bet that's really stuck with you. And that's probably why I can feel from you that you really care about people and you're trying to make sure that they don't technically, or literally lose the farm when it comes to their financial health and their family's health, because when, that does affect people's health and their spirits and their emotion and the quality of life they have right now. So I think it's really important. So why don't we get in, Ryan, to like you started working with CSI Financial, and I think it's always really interesting talking about that journey. What are you doing with your clients today to help them? What's your journey been like with CSI Financial and, working on succession planning, which is something that we're huge believers of over here, not just taking care of yourself, but as you pass the torch down financially to the kids and grandkids, how do you make sure that not only do they, keep the money and all that kind of stuff, but also that they can keep your moral values and beliefs?
Right. Well, so I tell you, the experience I've had with CSI Financial, with Carter and some of the other people within the organization has been remarkable, to put it bluntly. I've talked with other organizations that I don't want to say that do the same thing that CSI does, because I don't think that that's an accurate statement, but that try to do what to serve the need that I have for certain things. And it's a lot of glitz and not a lot of substance. And it's been a bait and switch kind of a operation, if you will. But so far, my experience with CSI has just been amazing. And the ability for you to truly bring something to the marketplace, if you will, that is unique. I mean, one of the reasons why I started In Season Financial is because I just felt that it didn't matter what firm you were with. Your website was probably going to say the exact same thing from one to the other. I've actually seen sites that say we specialize in all aspects of retirement planning. I'm like, well, that's not a specialist, that's a generalist. And so I found it to be really, I just didn't enjoy. I didn't like it. So I started In Season Financial to bring together financial planning and proper financial advice and my love for the outdoors, hunting, fishing, motorcycle riding, all these different things, to really know that there is a place where people can go and get the financial services that they need, the advice that they need, by somebody that can speak their language, if you will, or isn't going to come across as being, smarter than them, or need to feel like they're smarter than them. Because I've been in enough sales meetings and stuff in my career, and listening to other advisors talk, and I just don't want to listen to it. It's just not for me.
Yeah. So, by the way, thank you for those kind words and everything. And here's the thing, Richards, just so you know, this entire show is organic. It's not scripted. It's not like we were like, hey, Ryan, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask you this question, and here's how we need you to answer it. We are as
let me throw my script away, Carter.
We are as
note taking.
I see you taking notes. There's literally like one line on that notepad, by the way. So we're transparent, right? Because you don't have to be scripted when you're genuinely trying to help people. When we're having real, meaningful, honest conversations, you don't need a script at all. Right. The whole purpose of the Health and Wealth podcast is to enable our listeners to understand that the types of advisors and guests that come on here, they're real people, right? That are hopefully making an impact on people's lives in a very positive way. So that's why, we've been selective on the types of advisors that do come on, the guests that do come on here. It's not just anybody that gets to come on here. They've got to have the right heart for helping people, just across the board. Right. So anyway, that was my way of saying that, it meant a lot to me that I hear, because we try to deliver every chance we get. We'd say, the old saying, say what you mean what you say. Right. I believe that that's what we're doing. Right. And if we're not doing something like that, then I expect people to call me out if that's not what it is that we're not doing, or holding up our end of the bargain, or whatever the case may be. So, and I know that's early on. And there are organizations that are like ours, very competitive industry out there, much in the same vein that there's lots of advisors that are like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what is it that really differentiates you? That was a question that I asked myself early on in my own journey when I started CSI Financial Group. But because I have a very unique perspective, where I started out as, being an advisor to advisors, but then I got into the field and I worked with clients, and it gave me a unique perspective, so that whenever I started CSI Financial Group and taking that journey, I was like, okay, not only how am I going to differentiate myself, but by extension, how am I going to help to differentiate the advisor in a very competitive industry that you're in out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the reality of it. Cerulli Associates came out just with an article last week, and they updated what they call the Great Wealth Transfer. Listen up, Enrichers. This is the number. I'm not making this up. $84.4 trillion is going to be transferred to the next generations. $84.4 trillion, right? So I asked myself, of all of these mass affluent baby boomers and seniors that are retiring, what's going to differentiate the advisor that can really be impactful for them to win that relationship war that I talk about all the time? And we found out it's this triumvirate of planning: estate planning, financial planning, and legacy planning with legacy stories, right? So those three things are what we decided to deliver to the advisors that are out there, with that client acquisition challenge that they have to deal with every single time. So with all that being said, what I just got through talking about, Ryan, is that the thing that, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that really what you saw of the reason why you wanted to start working with us? Although you've probably been let down many times before, and that's what we fulfilled as far as what we said we were going to deliver.
Oh, yeah, that is it. You hit the nail right on the head. I mean, comparing what Epic Service Company is preaching, believing, compared to every other organization. Every other organization I was with, it was basically, a product of whatever the product was, and that could change from one month to the next. But no, what Epic Service Company is bringing is it's a totally different. It's just totally different, and it's very unique, and it's something that it doesn't really, ultimately it doesn't matter what your net worth is. It has something for you in it, without a question. So you don't need to be just that $50 million client that we were alluding to.
Right.
You can be that, that mass affluent client that we were talking about, and find something that's going to benefit them, their kids, and their grandkids, and kids that they are never going to see because they're years from being born. So yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, well, and because, again, that unique perspective that I have in the industry, and then because of the whole mission behind, legacy stories of what we're, alluding to here with legacy planning. Because, a lot of people, when I tell them that Epic Services is the estate and legacy planning solution for advisors and their clients, I have to be like, I know that may sound redundant, but it's not. And here's the reason why, right? So that's the thing that I wanted to be able to deliver, because we know that estate planning and financial planning, that's how you pass your valuables on, right? But how do you pass on your values to the next generation and everything? And wisdom removed from the wealth that was built is doomed to lose it if heirs inherit that wealth without understanding where those values came from. So that's why, a few years ago, I purchased Legacy Stories so that we can add that to our portfolio mix of solutions for the mass affluent. Talking about that $50 million number, I was just having a conversation the other day, and I might have said this to you in our training last week, but I was talking with a CFP that's in South Carolina, and she was telling me how whenever I was describing Legacy Stories to her, that she goes, that's interesting, because whenever I used to be at Vanguard had this system or whatever that they did something very, very similar to that, but you had to be worth $50 million to get access to it. So I knew right then and there that we were, and of course we added that well before I ever had that conversation. But when she told me that, I thought, here we go again, us delivering family succession planning, aka estate planning, to the mass affluent, and now we're adding legacy planning in Legacy Stories to the mass affluent. That typically you have to have $50 million to be able to have this type of access. So anyway, so if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about, your clients that you have worked with in the past, and the ones you're, looking to work with, in the future. What is maybe like your ideal client mix look like? I mean, I know we're generalizing with mass affluent and those who need our help and everything. I get that, but
Sure.
What do your ideal clients, the ones that are working with you, why do they like working with In Season Financial Group and Ryan Conley?
Sure. Well, if you had to put, well, I have basically one primary parameter, and it's no jerks. So that's a high priority for me. And I know that's, it's hard to determine on a first meeting. So sometimes it takes a couple of meetings, but, to be honest, it's going to be the blue collar type of, family, are the ones that I find that I really like to work with, the small business owner families, the ones that have spent decades working, that maybe they built up a pension or they built up a nice savings, or they're teachers like my dad. Those people, I have a good connection with them. As far as net worth, I mean, anywhere in that $500 to $5 million space, or higher, but that's not the biggest priority for me. It's finding the right clients. In fact, I think of a couple that come to mind, and I just look at the phone, they call, and I love it. I'm like, I will stop, most everything I'm doing to take their phone call, because it's never anything bad. We talk enough as it is, and I communicate with them all the stuff that's that they need to know, that's important. But when they call, it's usually something that's exciting for them, or it is something that they need, and I can help them solve the problem.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? Tim mentioned it earlier when we got into this segment about how, he can see that vibe and that genuineness, about you and everything. And I'll bet that your clients, not only will you answer the phone when they call, but I'll bet when you call them, they answer the phone almost every single time.
It doesn't take that long. That's right. Not long for them to get back to me anyway.
That's awesome. Well, so how long has In Season Financial Group now been? I mean, in total, how long have you been in the industry, and then how long has In Season Financial Group been helping out the blue collar, as you call them?
Sure. So I first got in the industry in 2005. I went independent basically at the very end of 2018. So between 2005 and 2018, I was working for different organizations. A lot of those years I was working as a financial advisor in the bank channel. Bank channel, I met a lot of great people, but my experience in the bank channel was technology wise, we were a rotary phone in an iPhone world, if I can put it, bluntly.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I ended up leaving that and went independent and joined the firm I'm registered with, which is RFG Advisory, based in Birmingham, Alabama. And it's nice to be in a firm that has a really great culture. It's small in scope relative to other firms in the industry, but it's growing and it has a tremendous amount of resources to bring to the table. So even though I'm an independent financial advisor, I am far from being the only person involved in handling, the affairs for my clients. And In Season came about within 2020 now. Still registered with In Season, so I'm with RFG Advisory. So In Season itself has been around for just a little over a year.
Gotcha. So suffice it to say, it's pretty important to surround yourself with a bunch of specialists that can help you out in all these different areas, because as we know, it's virtually impossible to do everything and to know everything, right? So,
oh gosh, yes. As I alluded to earlier, that firms that specialize in all areas of financial planning, retirement planning, I'm like, that's just ridiculous. That's not specialization.
Yeah, for sure. So, Well, I know that the enrichers have gotten a chance to get a much better idea and understanding, and your journey has been one that as a late bloomer that is very promising. I know that we're excited to be having you be a part of our entire organization and helping you in those client acquisition initiatives and everything. And we thank you for obviously being able to embrace is what I call our enlightened advisors. When they learn about all these different things, there's like, wait a second, you're not just blowing smoke. You actually do deliver on it. Yeah. So I appreciate that. Well, I know we're coming up on another break. Tim James.
Yeah, when I get done yawning, I'll take us to break.
Why don't you take us to break, Tim James?
Yeah, so let's do that. We'll take a quick break. Then we get back. We're going to let Ryan ask me any question he wants about health so that hopefully the folks listening here today, hopefully you'll get some valuable nugget out of this. So after you've worked with Ryan and you've accumulated and saved and maintained all that cash, you'll be able to enjoy it. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host, Carter Wilcox. And today in the house, Ryan Conley, certified financial planner. Hey, buddy. All right. It's time to flip the script. What questions do you have for me? Anything on health? Go.
Okay, wonderful. So here's, you mentioned, you alluded to the bitter, what was it in our gut? There's 25 receptors.
Bitter receptors, yeah.
Bitter receptors, and one for sugars. And that caused me to think a little bit. I've heard stuff about the gut basically being the second brain.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you tell me about that? What have we learned? When I say we, I mean the medical community learned about the gut and its overall impact on your overall health.
Well, I sure as hell can't speak for the medical community, but what I can speak for in the common sense community is that, and what I've learned is that, actually what's really interesting is, when we're conceived at birth, the cells start dividing, right?
Mm-hmm.
One cell becomes 2 becomes 4, 8, 16. What's really interesting, this is really cool. You're talking about, the gut and the brain, the gut being the second brain. Well, I think the gut's actually the first freaking brain. The brain is the second brain. So what happens is the gut and the brain were actually one cell. They divide, and one becomes the gut and one becomes the brain. Look at the gut. What does the gut look like? It looks like a bunch of tubes all jumbled up, right? What does the brain look like? A bunch of tubes all jumbled up. So it's literally, they were developed from the same cell. Okay. One becomes the gut, the other one becomes the brain. And they're connected. There's this gut brain axis, right? So what's really interesting is that a lot of people, well, you brought up the medical community. They've compartmentalized things. You have gut issues, go see the gastroenterologist. You got, brain issues, go see the brain doctor. You've got foot issues, go see the podiatrist. Your eyes are having a problem, go see the optometrist. But they've missed the fact that the entire human body is a system, and it is a complete system. And when a foot bone's connected to the leg bone, and the gut is actually connected to the brain, right? So it's very important to realize that, we really need to take care of our gut. Like that for me has been the biggest aha moment that I've ever had was when I actually saw virtual colonoscopies of 4 individuals, 3 that were unhealthy, that had health issues, and 1 that had been pretty healthy. I was at the Hippocrates Health Institute. And the first person was 24 years old, and she had Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, something like that. I can't remember. And she also had thrush, which is a yeast infection. I think it was Hashimoto's. Just her thyroid was jacked up. Okay. Inside of her colon was all yellow and white, and it was weird looking, right? And then they went to a 65-year-old male, and he had colon cancer and parasites. Now, inside of his colon was black and nasty. There was some brown in there. And then obviously, of course, it's the colon. You would assume there's some brown stuff in there, right? But there was a bunch of white worms crawling around too. Now, I'll never forget Dr. Scott Josephson, this guy that was like just freaking jacked to the moon. He was a bodybuilder and a medical doctor there, and his wife was a bodybuilder. We found out later. He said, look, this parasite deal is not a third world affair. He's like, easily over 50% of you have parasites in you. And we're not talking about the hookworms and the pinworms, these tapeworms, these things you're seeing in these, like in these virtual colonoscopies. I'm talking about microscopic parasites that you can't see. And all these parasites are drinking your drinks and eating your food, right? And they're urinating and defecating in you, creating more acid. And they're also having sex and having thousands and thousands of babies in you. And I'm just sitting there going, what? I mean, this guy's freaking me out, right? And then it went to the next gal that was like a 45-year-old female with breast cancer and like colitis. Her gut was jacked up. And inside of her colon was, black and just messed up and nasty. Okay. Then they showed the colon of somebody that had been on the Hippocrates protocol. These people that were eating lots of sprouts and living foods and green juices and avocados. I mean, they were just eating healthy food, right? Fresh food, lots of fresh food. And a lot of raw stuff too. And yeah, there was brown waste matter in there, but the colon, like the lining was like pink, and you could see the red blood vessels, and the terrain was completely different than the first three. And that's when I got it, that it was an inside game. And then, and that whole class was called internal awareness. It was the first class that I learned at Hippocrates, and they were trying to sell us on doing a colon hydrotherapy session. Are you familiar with that, Ryan?
No.
Okay. So colon hydrotherapy is colon hydro water therapy. So it's a colon water therapy. So you basically sit on a tube rectally. This is for anybody that doesn't know what this was, because I didn't. And water gently goes in and out of your colon for about an hour, and it cleans your colon. Now, why would you want to do that? It's because the average person has about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon. And we also have these mucoid plaques, these brown, black, viscous materials that get built up in the small intestines as a protective measure from all the garbage we've been eating and the pollution. So he said, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And if you ever want to be healthy, truly healthy, you need to clean that shit out of there and get it out and clean it up. And I was like, whoa, okay. And, he was trying to sell us in this colon hydrotherapy deal, and I wasn't going to do it until he showed those pictures of that virtual colonoscopy. And again, that's when it clicked for me. And I'm like, it's an inside job. So just like a car or a tractor, if it's not running well, your body is a system. It's a machine, right? It's everything in the universe is a system, right? And you can either be a open or dumb system, or you can be an intelligent system. And so what they taught us was we want to clean that stuff out. So if a tractor or a car's not running right, and you got a check engine light on, you don't just keep driving your car and driving it, because if you keep driving it, two things are going to happen. Number one, it's going to break down and leave you stranded, right? That's your body breaking down. You take care of everybody else. You put yourself last. You run your business. You take care of your wife, your kids, or vice versa. You take care of your husband. You take care of your parents. You do all this stuff. And then you're in the hospital and you can't take care of nobody, right? And you go into a broken medical system, right? And parent, right? That's one option. The other option is you put it off, and then down the road, the car really you take it in the mechanic, 6 months, a year later, and then you got a huge repair bill, which it could have been very inexpensive to fix up front. It's kind of like Benjamin Franklin said, a pound of cure is like a penny of prevention. I can't remember. You guys probably know it better than I do. So you guys get the point, right? So it's getting ahead of the game, right? So when you have when your gut's all jacked up like that, if you don't feel well, like you're overweight, you have low energy, your brain fog, you have eczema like I did, you're bleeding rectally like I was, you have let's say fibromyalgia, MS, cancer, whatever. These are check body lights. You're on pharmaceutical drugs, right? This is your body telling you you're out of balance. It's like blinking a light saying, take me into the shop, take me to the shop. Stop doing what you're doing. Change the environment. And the first environment I learned to change was the gut. The gut is so important to take care of that gut. And it is first brain, second brain, whatever you call it. It is super important. I believe it's the driving engine of our health. It is the engine. And so we want to get it gently clean it, and we want to take care of it and put things in it that are going to help it heal and nourish it, so that, because the intestinal lining and those little hair-like structures, these they're called villi. They line the intestinal lining, and they push your food through you, but they also pull the nutrients through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream. Right. So this is the gateway into getting the nutrients into the blood. And you are not what you eat. People say that you're not what you eat. You are what you absorb. Right. You can eat food, and it can go, most of it, in fact, only 10 to 30% is actually getting into the bloodstream. Right. Most of it's people's digestion is not working well. They don't move their body well. It's the way it is. Right. So we have malabsorption issues right from the get-go. It's not even getting through the intestinal lining. But then when it gets into the blood, it still has to get into the cell. Otherwise, it just floats around. That's why all these people have diabetes today. They have high blood sugar. Well, everything gets broken down into glucose. That's the fuel that goes into the cell. And if it can't get into the cell, then you're going to have what? All this sugar floating around in the blood, a.k.a. high blood sugar, type 2 diabetes, and you're going to be on metformin and all these types of things. So, yeah, so digestion is the gut is very important. And, yeah, it is absolutely connected to the brain. Foot bone's connected to the leg bone. So did that answer your question?
Well, it does. And I was reminded, didn't John Wayne, when he passed away from colon cancer, didn't he have, I've heard some just ridiculously large number in terms of pounds of fecal material in his colon at that point in time.
It's funny because like on the slides, John Wayne was on the slides at the Hippocrates Health Institute. So was
Really?
Elvis. Yeah. Died on a toilet, right? Both of these guys had impacted colons. I can't remember what the number was, but I remember the record at when I went in, they weighed me. I did colon hydrotherapy. An hour later, they weighed me again, and I dropped 10 pounds in 1 hour, right? 10 pounds of fucking gunk and junk lining my colon. And I just felt better. Like after just a week at that place, I looked at Charles and said, dude, we've discovered the fountain of youth, dude. Like I freaking feel so good. I feel like I'm 18 again. My mental clarity's back. My arms were at the institute were literally tingling with energy, like tingling. So we came back. We went forward with that deal. The record though at the institute was one lady. This was in 2011. Maybe somebody broke it. I don't know. Hopefully not. But one lady did a colon hydrotherapy session, and she dropped 27 pounds of impacted fecal material in one colon hydrotherapy session. 27 pounds. And I always equate that to what's 27 pounds? A medium-sized dog. So imagine a medium-sized dog falling out of your butt.
It reminds me of Jeff Goldberg and Art Goldblum in Jurassic Park. That's a big pile of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we really want to be truly healthy, we have to look on the inside, right? It really is an inside game. And just because you can't see it, it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So I always say people that are maybe OCD, your kitchen's pristine, but 9 times out of 10, I can run my finger across the top of the refrigerator. What am I going to find? A bunch of dust. You're not cleaning it all the time or as much because you can't see it. And that's what's going on the inside of our guts. And as financial advisors, men and women, or just, regular folks, working class folks, we take really good care of our face. I mean, women, they buy all these facial creams and all this stuff. And guys, we're dyeing our hair and getting our haircuts and putting our suit and our tie on. And well, maybe not Ryan. He's got his flannels on because I know he's going deer hunting after this episode. but right, we take good care of the outside, but what are we doing to the inside? We're not, because we can't see it. And we just think, oh, well, I'll just eat whatever the hell I want. It's no big deal. And nobody, it's like in medical school, they only give them like 2 weeks worth of nutrition class. Think about that. Think about this. Like medical doctors, when they graduate medical school, they take the Hippocratic Oath based on the dude named Hippocrates, right? That institute that I went to is based on him, okay? Is named after him, Hippocrates. And he said, do no harm. So all the medical doctors, they take an oath at the end, I will do no harm. And I think that's a darn good thing to do. I think it's awesome. I'm glad they're taking that oath. He also said, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. Well, where the hell did that go in medical school? Well, it's not, because it's run by Big Pharma. Okay, it's real simple. We got to take off the rose-colored glasses and see how things really are. I remember when I first started Healthy Financial, when I broke away and I started my own firm, I called it Healthy Financial. And I had this young doctor call in. He said, hey, I moved into town. I just finished medical school. And I want to know what I need to do to start saving my money and stuff like that. And investing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I set an appointment with him and everything. And I said, hey, I got a question. How much do they teach you about nutrition in medical school? And you know what the response was? Can you guys guess? Well, The first part was laughter. He started laughing at me. He's just like laughing. He's like, well, yeah, we don't learn about that. He's like, we're pretty much, we get a week or two of that. And then it's like, we don't have time for that crap. Send them down to the nutrition and the dietitian. Nutritionist and the dietitian. And, 70% of them are overweight or obese. And we're supposed to take advice from these people. And then again, it's just like, the thing is so, it's so backwards and so messed up. So, but here's the other thing. So a lot of people, have you guys heard of that? What Hippocrates said, let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy. Guess what else he said? This is a quote that most people don't know about. He said, he who is not his own doctor is a fool. He who is not she who is not his own or her doctor is a fool. And what does that mean? He's talking about you taking responsibility for yourself. You have to become your own doctor. You have to learn how to take care of your body. Every creature in nature knows how to doctor themselves. They take care of themselves. They don't have ER, an emergency room, and all this stuff. And thank God we have that. Okay. Clinics and stuff like this that we have, they don't have that in nature. Horses get sick. What do? They go eat different herbs and stuff. Native Americans would watch them eat it. And then when they would get sick with something similar, they'd go out and eat the herbs, and eat it, and they'd heal themselves. Right. Crazy stuff is out there in nature. All these phytochemicals or plant chemicals. That's what Big Pharma does. They research all that stuff. They isolate a nutrient, then they synthesize it in a lab, and they make an acid-based version of it. So it's kind of like, the phytochemicals come in hundreds of thousands of millions of them come in like a symphony orchestra in your body, and they just work really well. Well, they take one kid with a heavy metal guitar who's never played guitar before, and then they crank it up and he's like, making a bunch of noise. The body doesn't know how to deal with it, right? It's not natural, right? We are from nature. We are an expression of nature. We don't just live with or in nature. We are nature, and people forget that. And to wrap it up, you have to understand your body's mostly made of what? Water. Where do you find water? Nature. Your gut microbiome or gut bacteria is many of them are very similar to the same bacteria or soil microbiome. Same ones. I mean, we are so nature, and when you're dead and somebody cremates you, there's minerals left. Your body's mostly made of minerals. Where do you find that? In the soil. We're nature, and that's the difference.
So that connection you were talking about at the very beginning, when the brain and the gut came from the same cell, is that why they're finding? When I say they, it's a generic term, but the connection between proper gut health and proper mental clarity. Oh yeah,
I've seen it all the time in my practice, like myself included, and my friends and my coaching students. I've had over 600 people through my coaching program one-on-one. Is that you heal the gut and you get better mental clarity. You do. The brain works better. Your brain's also mostly water, and we know 95% of people listening are not drinking adequate amounts of water, and what water they are drinking is tainted with toxic chemicals because it's not purified. I believe in triple purified, and if you're on city tap water, you got to restructure it. It's the high pressure pipes have made the water molecules too coagulated. They're too big. They're like bowling balls trying to go through a chain link fence, and we need small little molecules like sand to go through a chain link fence. We have to restructure the water so we can absorb it properly. Otherwise, we just drink a lot and pee a lot out. It's still better than not drinking enough at all. But if you're on city tap water, let me tell you what, if you get your water triple purified, if you figure this out and you get it restructured, you are going to radically change your health, radically, just by doing that investment, right? Setting a good foundation, right? It's almost like making an investment in something where you can't lose the principal. That's a very smart way to invest. In fact, that's in one of those 10 principles in that book, Richest Man in Babylon. You guys read that? You guys have had to read that.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Only invest thy money where thy principal is safe. Right. Pretty smart, right? You take care of your gut and you get some clean, super good, purified, clean water that's restructured, and you are going to transform your health. Right. I could do a dissertation on everything that happens when you put good water into your health, but you don't even need it. You just need common sense. Your body's mostly made of it. Water's polluted today. We're born with toxic chemicals, 180 cancer-causing chemicals in the womb. We know that we need to clean up our water and our food. We need clean food, clean water, and clean air. And after this working class movement takes off, we'll hopefully get our clean elections back. And then we can get, truth, freedom, and health back in this country and around the globe.
For sure.
Nice. Ryan, do you have any other questions for Tim before we let our enrichers go and wrap it up?
Yeah,
I could probably sit and talk to him for hours, but in lieu of the fact that we don't have that kind of time, I think I'm good for today. So thank you.
Okay. I'm still waiting for somebody to ask me if dark chocolate covered grasshoppers is healthy, but maybe next time.
I'm going to go with yes, they are. And they taste so good.
Oh, yes. Nothing like a dark chocolate covered grasshopper.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Well, hey, Ryan, we really do appreciate you, coming on to the show. Obviously, we appreciate the opportunity to help you grow your practice and everything. And I know that what we're going to do, Tim and I, we're just getting ready to start this, and this is kind of a lead in for you other enrichers and other guests that have been on there and everything. We're going to start having Tim do health shows with you and your clients, where you'll be, co-hosting basically like with Tim, and he'll come on and he'll do, like an hour-long session and invite all of your clients in to come in and learn some of these things that Tim will be able to give them just as a value add for you coming on and being a guest onto the podcast. So you'll learn more about that. Tim and I are, starting to formulate those things together right now, but we want to be able to bring value every chance we get, right, to all of our listeners and to our guests. So that's something that we're excited to be able to be rolling out here fairly soon. So with that, hey, enrichers, thank you so much for joining us for another show of the Health and Wealth Podcast. To be able to see all of the previous guests and all of our previous recordings, make sure to go check out our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com. And you can make sure to also like, share, and subscribe to anywhere where you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, wherever you get it, you can be able to find the Health and Wealth Podcast. For my fantastic co-host, Mr. Tim James of Chemical Free Body, and Ryan Conley of In Season Financial Group in St. Louis, Missouri, I'm Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder and co-founder of Epic Services Company. Wishing you all a very wonderful day and an abundant day. Everybody have a great rest of your day. And thank you both again very much for joining us. Thanks, guys. Hey, enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.